how I do everything.
Fantastic. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cheddar Chronicles, or unless we name it something differently, I don't know yet. My name is Lisa Kennecke, and I have the honor today to interview the one and only Dan Burrus, who's going to tell us a little bit about himself and give us some pearls of wisdom for those of us who are just starting out in our speaking career. And without further ado, I would love to introduce to you Dan Burrus of the Burrus Research Incorporated Group.
Yep. Burrus Research Inc. Yep, that's
Burrus
it.
Research Inc. So
Yeah.
excited to have you here today. So Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, if I give you a quick nutshell, started out teaching biology, physics, and science, and so on. And I really love that, and really that's what I was put on the planet to do: teach. So I know why I'm here. But I also was kind of entrepreneurial, put myself through college playing lead guitar in a rock band, and still play to this day. Matter of fact, I got a guitar.
I see it, yeah.
There. And yet, so I was entrepreneurial because actually we made money. Actually, our band did really well. So I kind of liked that. And so I had an idea for a business after I taught for a number of years, and I started doing it on the side. That was the aviation business. I had an idea for an airplane, so I built it and test flew it, and it turned out I had 37 national locations in the first year. It turned out to be really good. And I thought, hey, this is pretty good. I like making money. So I started another company, another one, and very quickly I had 4 companies going. They were doing really well, but I was missing teaching. So now I like making money, but I miss teaching. So I decided to sell all those companies, but not go back to teaching, because in my mind, you can never go back. You can only go forward, and that includes where we are right now with the virus. A lot of people want to get back to the way it was, but I ride a Harley-Davidson motorcycle because there's no reverse. You can never go back. You can only go forward. So in this case, I wanted to go forward to teaching, but I didn't know what that meant. This, by the way, was in 1982. So in 82, I spent a year doing research. So again, I was a science guy. So I was researching all of the latest innovations in technology around the world and came up with my methodologies for looking at the future and predicting the future, and decided I would launch in 1983 by speaking. This is before discovering NSA and WPSA. So I thought I'd start speaking. And at the time, I didn't know you could make money speaking. I didn't know there were other professional speakers. I had no clue. I thought I was inventing a profession in a way.
Right.
So I really had a lot of really good stuff, and you can't just run out in the street and say, hey, I got some really good things to say, hire me. So I thought, why don't I give a speech to the most difficult audience there is? And because if I could handle them, I could handle anyone. So my first speech was to 1,000 inner city junior high school kids in Milwaukee, because I figured if I could handle them, I could handle IBM. So yeah. I gave that speech, turned out to be really good, did a number of school presentations with in-services. So I had already been speaking for about a year and a half when I discovered WPSA. And I think I gave 200-page speeches the first year and 150 something the second year. So, I mean, I started out, boom, right away doing it, because the more you speak, the better you get. One day I was looking in the Milwaukee Journal, and there was a little thing about a speaker showcase sponsored by the Wisconsin chapter of the National Speakers Association. I thought, wow, there's others. So that was my beginning of finding my professional family, which you are all part of. And it's my brothers and sisters out there in this professional family we have. And I thought, great. So I joined. I became a member right away. And my thinking was there was a lot to learn, but there's also a lot to give. So I started volunteering for things immediately. Matter of fact, I think it was my second year I got on the board. And the third year I was the president, so it went fast. But that's only because, hey, I think actually what I've seen, not just in this profession, but in others, the ones that do the best give the most. Kind of interesting. So for those of you that haven't thought about doing that yet, consider that. There may be a connection there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, because by the way, the more you give, the more you learn. The more you help others, the more you help yourself. So I really loved WPSA, and still when I'm back in Wisconsin, I mean, I'm in San Diego now. This is, I was just kind of showing, this isn't a picture. It's actually
Not bad.
my place here. Yeah, I'm looking at the ocean out there. So it's nice. By the way, that's all brought to you by speaking. So, hey, you can do all right. Um, and uh, and I still have a place in Wisconsin. My company's based in Wisconsin. I actually live on Pewaukee Lake for 25 years now. So so Wisconsin, I still think of as home, and I'll be heading back there soon. And one of the things that I remember in my first meeting, I was here. I heard someone. This is again in probably late '84, early '85, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the people who was there was Nito Cobain, who has been a fixture of NSA for a long time. He had been a member way before me. And one of the things that he said in there was, and I thought, I interpreted it as he made this money all in speaking fees, but actually it wasn't. He was also including books and tapes and other products. But he said that year that he was getting close to making $1 million that year in speaking. And I didn't know he could make that much in speaking. So right away, what that did was it opened up, oh, you can do that. Hey, like that. I hadn't thought that big before, because I think most of us think big, but we don't think big enough. So I immediately thought bigger. Now, did I want to copy what Nito was doing? And the answer was no, because there's only one Nito, there's only one Lisa, and there's only one Dan on the planet. I need to be the best that I can be. So what the insight was, most speakers, even if they've got a business background, treat speaking, not as a business. And when I heard that he had made that money, I thought to myself, well, he is, the words he's saying and how he's presenting, is that really worth, that much money?
Yeah.
And the answer is, well, there must be more to this. By the way, that's called marketing, positioning, things like that.
Okay,
so
good.
I started looking at all those things that go along with it that will help you propel the difference that you can make forward. And started doing that. And again, I've been on the board of directors. I served 2 terms at the national NSA. Those of you who attended NSA last year, as you know, I co-hosted that conference last year with Mike Rayburn. And I think everybody really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
I've
So
heard
I'm
it.
still involved in the national and, and in the WPSA. The way I look at it is you lay $1 down, you pick 5 back up or 10 back up. So it's worth the investment. And so let me take a few minutes to talk about where we're at right now, because I think a lot of speakers are saying, whoa, we're not having meetings. Holy cow, bad time to start being a speaker. And I think, no, maybe it's the best time to start being a speaker. First of all, it is kind of separating the wheat from the chaff, and I'd like you to consider yourself the wheat and not the chaff. Secondly, post-pandemic success will be determined by what you do now, not what you do post-pandemic. So for those of you that have a wait and see attitude, you may wait and see yourself right out of business. I think the time is to look at, how do I launch and do what I want to do now with the world of Zoom and webinars and all of that. Actually, in some ways, it's easier to launch now than it is trying to find a live meeting. And I think the key is having something unique to offer. So if you're doing other people's material, you will be able to be okay, and you can make a living, but you won't really zoom ahead. If you really want to get ahead, it's kind of coming up with what's your take? What are your concepts? And that comes from your story, comes from your life experiences, and you weave those things together. So what I'm getting at is, I think this is a defining moment we have because of the virus and what it's done. It's a defining moment for individuals. It's a defining moment for businesses. It's a defining moment for nonprofits, for schools. And I believe that you don't want to squander a defining moment. You want to rise to it. So let me share this with you. I think I was doing a commencement speech a couple of years ago in Wisconsin, and all those thousands of graduates, some getting PhDs, some getting bachelors, and their parents. And I'm sure I freaked them out because I gave them two things that I wanted to share with this group.
Okay.
One thing I said is, I don't want you to focus on living a successful life. I'm sure that made a lot of parents go, whoa,
Yeah.
And I said, because success is all about you. It's all about your degrees. It's all about your plaques on the wall. It's how much money you make. It's who you work for. It's the size of your house. It's what kind of car you have, what kind of jewelry you wear. It's all about you. That's what success is about. I would like you instead to live a life of significance, because significance is not about you. It's about what you do for others. And if you
Wow.
can elevate your significance, you'll find success circling around and reaching you as a result of being significant. So what I think it's important for us to do is to elevate our personal and business significance. In other words, what would a significant mother do right now? What would a significant father do, a brother do, a sister do, a mom do, a dad do, or how about an uncle or a niece, or how about an employee, or how about an employer? What would you do right now? Not focusing on success, but focusing on significance, because success follows significance if you really want it to be big. Second thing, because I said there were two,
Right.
is I want you to think big about your future and then realize you just thought small. I mean, there's bigger big. And I think our limitations are all just self-imposed anyway. So maybe we ought to lift the veil from all of those things. If you wonder what's the problem you're facing, whatever challenge you've got, whatever it is that's happening right now, the answer can be found in the mirror. What you gotta do is look it in there, and it's all you. And I can't change what happens to me, but I can change how I respond to it, what I
Very
do
true.
with it. And what I don't want to focus on the list of things I can't do. I would rather have a list of things I can do. I don't want to just look at the things that I'm not certain about. I'd like to ask myself, what am I certain about? I would like to look at, here's the things I can't afford. Well, what can you afford? And, maybe I can't change the world, but maybe I can change my community, or maybe I can change my school, or maybe I can change my family, or maybe instead of change, which implies you're doing something wrong, that word has baggage. Instead of change, I would like to elevate what we do to increasing relevancy based on the direction the future is going. Because the words we use is loaded with baggage. If I'm telling a bunch of teachers, you got to change, what did I just tell them? You're doing something wrong. But if I want let's talk about how we can elevate our relevance to the kids and to the parents and to the community and to their future, I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. So, some things, just some food for thought for you. I think the more you speak, the better you get. And even though I started speaking and getting paid for it in the beginning, doing school talks at first, assemblies, doing in-services, I also did a lot of freebies, a lot of them, because you get good. And what I did is I gave myself intentional freebies, because some people are waiting for all those speeches to come to them. And by the way, you could wait yourself right out of business.
Yeah.
What I did is I determined who do I need to speak to grow, and what groups would they be. Let me give you some examples. One was I spoke to the Badger Home for the Blind. Now, they had never had a speaker before at that time. And all of the people that I'd be speaking to are blind. Now, why did I want to speak to them? Because I would not be able to use visual metaphors. They can't see. So I have to use words that paint pictures in their mind that they cannot see with their eyes. Remember, just because you can't see doesn't mean you don't have vision. So that was one that I gave. Another one was I spoke to an audience where everyone was deaf. Now, why would I want to be a speaker speaking to everyone who's deaf? Well, I had to speak through sign language people. They did the speaking. And I didn't realize at the time I would make use of that later in my speaking career when I'm speaking to audiences with different languages and they have translators. As a matter of fact, with Lisa, I was just telling her that the last time I was speaking in Beijing, about a year and a half ago, there were 14,000 people in the audience from over 35 countries. In other words, there were over 35 translators in booths speaking to those people. And I think, again, do you know how to talk through others? Well, I didn't even know how I'd use that. Let's see, I was challenging myself. As a matter of fact, I even gave a speech to people that had mental disorders and all kinds of those kind of things, because then how do you communicate with them? And in some cases, it's more tactily. In some cases, it's more of the experience than the words. Anyway, my point being, I was preparing myself. Are you preparing yourself? Are you challenging yourself? Are you looking at who never gets an audience? By the way, who else did I speak to? I spoke to kindergartners. I spoke to Boy Scouts for free, Girl Scouts for free. I spoke in aging communities where the old people are. They never have anybody in there speak to them. I did that. Why? Well, I got to be able to talk to anybody.
Right.
I got to be able to take biology, chemistry, and physics and get some kindergartners excited about it. If I can do that, I can handle IBM. See, that was my thinking. And it worked. It worked for me. Hey, I'm just giving you all food for thought. The president of WPSA was Marilyn Berger when I joined. Wonderful lady. She was fantastic. I think she is retired and living out in west of Madison somewhere. There were just a lot of really good people in there because NSA and WPSA, what we do is we all just help each other. We kind of call it the CAVIT mentality, but again, I think what it really is about is knowledge increases in value when it's shared. And again, if I do believe, which I do, there's only one of you and me on the planet, I can give you my best ideas. And by the way, if those are the only ideas I've got, I already got trouble. And if I can't think of any new ideas, I got trouble. So it's not like I'm giving something that I can never get back or that I've lost because I gave it to you and now I don't have it. Actually, I still have it. And in the process of giving it to you and explaining it to you, actually, that's part of being a teacher, you learn it better. So I would make knowledge a verb and call it knowledging. So I believe I like knowledging, where we elevate that knowledge. So during this time of the virus and what we have right now with physical meetings kind of shut down, I'm thinking, and again, I'm a futurist forecaster.
I'm listening.
To the future. So what I'm thinking is that large meetings probably aren't happening this year. One of the reasons they're not even happening in the fall is I believe that, first of all, there's liability issues with that. Secondly, will you get enough people to trust being together with other people in a big meeting? Third, too expensive to take out a big room and have 6 feet of people apart. Right. Then you got to have a giant room for a smaller number of people. The economics don't quite work out. And then who are you going to be happy with flying at that point in time? And, maybe not, because the virus has not gone away and the virus doesn't care about politics. It is there. So the reality is we're probably not having big meetings until the following year. But I think we will see more smaller groups and meetings that are taking place where you can do some distancing and you can wear a mask, but that more like in fall. Not really during the summer months, and that's an if or a maybe as well, not a for sure. But what we do have for all of us, those of us that have been speaking for a long time and those of us that are new, is a chance to sit back and revisit our business model. Because some of us have said right now the world has hit the pause button during this time. By the way, that's the wait and see. I don't like that. Some people have said, well, we're going to hit the reset button. We're just about to reset. And I would say, well, you're not thinking big enough. What I want us to do is to hit the transformation button. And transformation is different than change. Change comes from the outside in, causing you to react and put out fires and crisis manage. Transformation, whether it's personal or business, all this comes from the inside out. and that gives you control because you're shaping the future rather than reacting to it. So I would like you to sit back and look, wow, don't, of course, understand, I'm not putting down the health and human tragedy of what has happened right now. I mean, it
Sure.
truly is amazingly tragic and so on. So just know I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm also right now talking about the other side of that. And I'm telling you that this tragedy has always also given us a gift. Because whenever anything bad happens, something good happened. Have you noticed? Whenever anything good happens, have you looked to see what bad happened? Because it did. You got the yin and the yang, the up and the down, the plus and the minus, the Democrat, the Republican, the blah, 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 blah. We got opposites. That has been happening since the dawn of time. So I like to see what's the opportunity. And the opportunity is what we're doing right now. I've been offering virtual consulting and virtual speaking for many, many years. I remember there have been times when I'm working with maybe consulting in Tokyo, but I can't do it because I can't get there. I've been using satellites at one time because the internet wasn't fast enough. So I've been doing this for a while. And many of you don't know, but last year I started offering life-size holograms where I beam into an audience like Star Trek and give a speech.
I heard about that on a podcast. So
yeah.
I have been following you, and I did hear about that on a podcast. So
yeah,
yes.
That's been kind of cool. Matter of fact, the last time I did it was not that long ago. The client wanted me, I was actually speaking live, and then the future me beamed in next to me, kind of like Mike and I did at NSA, but I did for a client, and we had a conversation. It was really cool. So, I've been doing that kind of stuff for a long time, but most people want you there live, even if you got the cool stuff. But now they can't have you there live. So I think is that limiting me? Well, I think in the last 6 days, I've done 7 webinars, a keynote speech. I've got a speech coming up on Friday. I got a equipment check for it coming up in about an hour. So, hey, and am I going to just want to go back to only being on a plane after this? And the answer is no, it's a both and world. It's not either this or that. So this is now a part of your and my portfolio of offerings. So if your website right now is just all about keynote speaking in front of a live audience, you need to change that. You need to update it and say that is an offering that I have and will always have. But I also have virtual and webinar. And I think there are many different ways to put that together. What you really want is to have a really good experience and, and continue to elevate it. But again, it's not just the look and the feel, it's the words that you share and how you share them, and it's the experience you create. So I've been jabbering on for half an hour. Lisa hasn't even had a chance to ask me almost one question, but I'm gonna let Lisa just ask me a couple of questions here because let's take advantage of being together. It's a touch point we have right now. I'm happy to share more. Lisa, what would you like to bounce off me?
Well, Dan, you have just been, I've been taking notes feverishly and I'm excited, and you've answered a lot of the questions, and thank you again for we're not done yet, but the next question that I would have is, you talked about Marilyn Berger and those kind of things. Any other special memories that you have from either, I think it was the Wisconsin Professional Speakers Association that then became NSA Wisconsin when Chris Clark Epstein was the president,
Right.
if I'm doing my history correctly. Is there a certain memory that you're like, oh, Lisa, I have to share this memory?
Well, the good news about this profession and about NSA Wisconsin, as it's now called, and NSA is that it's loaded with great memories. There are people that are friends at NSA Wisconsin, as well as the NSA National, some of my very dear, close friends that, I met there. And, we stay connected, but, I consider them brothers and sisters, truly. And I would have never met him had I not gone there, because I think we all have a lot of amazing connections with each other. For example, your brothers, your sisters, your best friends, your parents have no clue what you do for a living and never will. But another speaker will. They understand it. We all are putting ourselves on the line every day when we're speaking. It's kind of like an artist can do their painting, and they can say, that's not so good, and paint over it and adjust it and massage it and then put it out there in a gallery and let somebody buy it. But we're painting portraits with our words every day live in front of an audience, and if it sucks, they know it. So my point is, we know that. We're doing it in real time, and we're putting ourselves out there. We're giving, we're revealing, we're sharing, and we're sharing our joy and our pain. We're sharing things that will help them grow. So, that's a unique thing. And all of us feel like we have something we really want to share. And one of the things I love about this versus, say, Toastmasters or some of the other organizations, which are all very good ones, this isn't about how to speak. Now, you can learn how to speak, but that's not what it's about. I believe it's more about, if you know how to speak, how do you get better at it? And number two, how do you dimensionalize it? How can you turn this into a business and make a living on it? How can you make a bigger difference and help others with it? How do you do books? How do you do tapes? How do you do all these different things? And there's always someone that has done whatever it is you're planning on doing, who is willing to share what they have learned. So I remember one of the past presidents who has passed away a number of years ago, Jim Henning, was from the organization. Amazing guy, wonderful guy, and he was on the board with me, there in Wisconsin, as well as, by the way, in national.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy who is not speaking anymore, but I actually got him at a NSA Wisconsin meeting last year in Madison, and that's Bill Stevens, another past president and an amazing guy. And he's done what a lot of you would love to do. He actually sold his business. Wouldn't it be great to have a speaking business you could actually sell and retire? So, there's still things to learn, is what I'm getting at. And there were some people like Milt Rome, who was such a funny guy, and Roger Stoddard from Madison. And I mean, there are just so many names and so many great memories. To have just one would be impossible, because I'm just loaded with them. And then that doesn't even count going to the NSA meetings, which I really urge you to do. And if they don't have it physically this year, you need to pony up and go, because again, you lay $1 down, you're not going to pick 3 up, you're going to pick 20 or 100 up. It's really it's an investment in your future. So something that would have taken you 2 or 3 years might take you 3 or 4 days or weeks. And hey, do you really want to spend that much time, or would you like to get there faster? So I think of NSA Wisconsin and NSA as an accelerator for your success, because of the sharing that can take place. So I am loaded with a lot of laughs and a lot of relationships. And matter of fact, I was just speaking to a friend about 2 days ago. I'm guessing, about 2 days ago, Mary Mark Dante, who was a member back then, and so I still have close friends that I'm in contact with from my early 80s days of speaking. So I think these are lifelong friends that you develop. So I'm always going to NSA, what am I looking for? Well, and one thing is that new amazing friend that who's a brother or sister I just haven't met yet. Hey, that's a wonderful thing to meet and to uncover. And there's, again, if you go with significance in mind, and not just taking, but also giving, you'll find yourself receiving quite a bit.
I love that. That is fantastic. Where did you have your meetings when you were first involved with WPSA?
Oh, wow. Where I had the meetings.
Milwaukee area?
They were all in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
They were in Milwaukee for a long time. the numbers out. There were a couple of people from Green Bay and North Wausau, like Chris Clark Epstein. There was, there was a number in Madison, but the bulk was in southeastern Wisconsin, so that was tended to be where they had meetings. And occasionally we'd do a workshop or a special meeting, in Green Lake or in Madison or something like that. But they all were in Milwaukee, and they were at some hotel, Fisher or something. I mean, there was a hotel room that we had. And frankly, I've been in so many hotel rooms and those 3,000 keynote speeches, God knows. I think I've got 6 million miles on 3 airlines, and that's only 3 airlines. So, but I do a lot of international work as well. So that'll add it up a little bit faster.
So you are a significant person. You do have relevance. Is there, or are there, a couple of accomplishments that you, Dan Burrus, are really proud of that you have put out into the universe, or someone has given your accomplishments? That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. There is one that kind of comes to mind because I got a bunch of things like we all have, but one was probably my craziest, insane travel I ever did in my life. It's related to that. I was giving a speech in South Africa, but the problem was I was booked right before it in Chicago and right after it in Arizona.
Okay.
So it was all the way to South Africa. And by the way, that is a long, long, long way. It took hours just to fly over, the Sahara Desert, going down the northern part of Africa, going in because I came in through Europe. Yeah. Anyway, I think I spent a total of 18 hours on the ground in South Africa. In other words, it took longer to get there and longer to get back than the time I was there. And I only had 30 minutes to speak. So why in the world would I do that? And I did that because I knew I could really had the potential to make a big difference there. And it would be worth it. So I was speaking. I'll tell you what I did, because now you got the setup. So I went there because it was a cell phone company, and this was around 2001 or so, way before the iPhone. And they were going to get cell phones, and they wanted to expand out, in the countries of Africa. Remember, Africa is a continent. There's many, many, many countries. And so when I went down there to speak to them, one of the things that I said is you got to stop thinking of yourself as a cell phone company, a telecommunications company, and instead think of yourself as an economic empowerment company. Because right now, Africa doesn't have any infrastructure. They hardly have any roads. They don't even have electricity in so many places, and much less how are you going to charge your phone or what's the relevance of it. They got none of that. But you've got to realize what the future of the cell phone is. And again, I'm using my futurists. Yeah. And I said, it's going to quickly evolve into being your television set. It's going to be your school. It's going to be your bank. It's going to be your map. It's going to be all the things that Africa doesn't have. And it would take decades and decades and decades to build all of that. And no one would be able to afford it in the first place. But if it's in a phone, you could do it. So what I suggested to them, remember, I only had a half an hour. And I said, what I'm suggesting is that you, in every country, you start a foundation, not for profit. And you go in, and that's where they don't even have electricity. And you use solar if they got a lot of sun. You use biodiesel if they've got a lot of plants. So it's renewable and it's sustainable, and you get them power. Now they can get water out of the well without having to turn a crank. And as they start to use those phones, because now they can charge them, they will increase their commerce and start making money, because now they can coordinate, now they can collaborate, now they can innovate, now they can grow their stuff and have more phones. Right as the phones get smarter and get more intelligent, which is very close. As you know, that was just a couple of years, all of a sudden the iPhone came out. And remember, the price is going down. And I said, and you'll end up with competitors that'll see how well you're doing. And what they'll do is they'll start coming in to compete with you, but they won't have a chance. And the reason they won't have a chance is you got water out of the well for them, and they'll remember that.
Yeah.
Well, within 2 years, they were in 23 countries from that half-hour speech. Also from that, and now they're really big. They were doing mobile banking before we were here. And from that speech and from that happened, about a year later, a similar company in the Middle East called and wanted me to speak to them. It was a telecom company, wanted to do something similar, which they did, and elevated a whole bunch of people there. And then from that speech, I got a call from the head of the president of Colombia. And at the time, the cartel was doing very bad. Colombia was a very dangerous place to go to. And I had a meeting one-on-one with the president of Colombia. Remember, this is all from that half-hour speech. And I had to walk through 2 blocks worth of machine guns and tanks because of all of the danger of being there, and even the danger to the president. But again, I could make a difference. And I met with them and talked about a similar kind of thing, because if the only way you can make any money as a peasant in Brazil is to join the cartel, they're going to join the cartel. But if they have other options and other things, then they have choices. And by the way, Colombia is a safer place today than it was back then. So what I'm getting at is, I could see what I could do in that half hour. And it would really take a toll on my body, flying that long, that short, going back. And, it's like, whoa. But, I'm trying to do what I'm asking you all to do, and that is to look at, how can you elevate the significance of what you do versus the, I delivered a good speech. And a little last coaching to help you get there. One thing I learned very early was to leave my ego out of the room, because a speech isn't about me. Matter of fact, I've had people say, do you get nervous? And the answer is, no, how could I get nervous? You see, you get nervous when you're thinking about you. Am I going to remember what I'm going to say? How do I look? Are my glasses okay? Is my hair okay? Do I have my slides and my graphics together okay? See, that's all about you, and frankly, you don't matter at all. It's them that matter. So I actually never study a speech. I study the audience. And if I can become one of the audience before speaking to them, and everything I'm doing is about them, then it's not about me. How could I get nervous? And if that's your focus, you're more likely to make a difference than deliver a speech.
Rarely am I, Lisa Kennecke, speechless, but I am in awe of the words that you said, and I'm taking everything in, and I had no idea with whom I was speaking, and I thought I had done my research ahead of time.
We're all just regular people. As a matter of fact, let me take a second to address that for just a minute, if you don't mind. And that is, we think that extraordinary people are kind of born extraordinary, and I've done some research on that, and most of them weren't. There are a few that are born that way, but most are not. Most were ordinary people, and at some point in their life, they stopped doing ordinary things and they started doing extraordinary things. And frankly, I think it's a daily choice. So here's how you would do it. You're about to do a speech, and you're about to do the speech the way Boss done it. But before giving that speech, ask yourself, what would an extraordinary speaker do? And think about that a little bit and do that instead. If you're a student and you're about to ask a question, instead of asking the question, ask yourself, what would an extraordinary student ask? And think about that, ask that question instead. What would an extraordinary mom do in this situation, or a dad, or brother, or sister? Start asking those questions and do that instead. And here's what will happen. In time, people will say, wow, you're extraordinary. And I would say, yeah, you actually chose it on a daily basis. So let's choose to be extraordinary.
Choose to be extraordinary.
You all are. I remember a CEO asked me one day, said, how do I hire extraordinary people? I said, they already work for you. You just haven't taught them how. Yeah. So again, there is greatness in every one of you. There really is. You've got everything you've ever needed. You don't want to be Dan. You want to be you, the best you've got. And it isn't measured by where you live or how much money you've made. Matter of fact, the amount of money you make in a speech isn't equivalent to the difference that you make at all. So it isn't about that, although I'm not saying I don't like to make money. I do like to make money, but if you're focused on the money, you won't get there anyway. You're focused on the wrong thing. Or you might get there and not be a very happy camper because you found it ain't all about money. So I think, the key is to make sure you know what you're really trying to accomplish and do.
That is fantastic. Dan, if people want to look at all of the books you've written or see all of your speeches, what's the best way that people should get in contact with you?
They can go to Burrus, BURRUS.com. Got a lot of resources in there, a blog, and so on, that I write once a week. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. As I said, I've got 1.3 million followers there, and you can connect up. I'm one of the global influencers there. And I've got a learning system I think you would really like called the Anticipatory Leader.
I saw that.
And that is something that will basically what I do is when I write a book or I'm developing a learning system, it's like I'm a teacher at heart. That's why I was put on the planet. So how do I teach others to do what I do? Because I've had a lot of people over the years that have said, I want to think like you. Okay, well, how do I think like me? I figured it out, kind of decompressed it and get it out there, and there it is. And it's an award winner. And, so look at the Anticipatory Leader. And my last book, The Anticipatory Organization, if you go to the web link of theao.com, theao.com, I'll give you a free hardcover book. You've got to pay for shipping. And by the way, it's not enough shipping that I make money on the shipping. If I add up shipping to the West Coast or the East Coast or the different places, I break even if I'm lucky. But as you'll see by buying or by paying for the shipping and getting the free book, you'll see how a sales funnel works. Because what I'll do is give you a couple of offers before you leave. And if I can get enough people to get a couple of those offers, now I can actually make money and at the same time get people reading my book. So it'll give you a little idea of how does a sales funnel work? Well, you're about to discover.
That's good because I'm about to launch my book coming up very shortly. So that is fantastic. And Dan, again, thank you for your time. You are a treasure to NSA Wisconsin, and thank you for your service to us as well as at the national level. And any last words before I stop the recording?
Only that we have an opportunity right now to transform every process that we have. We have a chance to transform education and healthcare and the environment. You know what? We've been given this opportunity right now to not go back to where they were or where we were, which wasn't all that great anyway, but to actually do something even better. So I would say rather than passively receive the future and have a wait and see, make sure you're actively shaping it to be much better than it was. And I see this profession we're in as even more important now than it ever was because people need what you offer. And they don't need you just on a stage. You could be where you are, Lisa, right now in your basement. Yep. You could be where I am right now in a living room. And, what does it matter? It's more about what you say than where you are. So choose to be extraordinary and you'll be doing fantastic. And thank you and stay healthy.
Thank you, Dan Burrus. And that concludes this chapter of the Cheddar Chronicle. So Dan, just stay on the line. I'm just going to hit pause here and stop.